I'm Jake, 25, male, and I've been living with my parents since forever. It's not because I'm some loser who can't get his life together. I've got a decent job as a web developer. I pay all my own bills, and I've been saving up to start my own gaming studio someday. I've actually been paying my parents $450 a month in rent since I turned 18. Yes, 18. While most of my friends were living the college life, I was already forking over cash to live in the bedroom I grew up in. But whatever, that seemed fair. The housing market is complete garbage around here, and I figured helping the family was better than throwing money at some random landlord. Plus, my job is like 15 minutes away, so it made sense. The problem isn't the money, it's my older brother, Drew, 28. This dude is the walking definition of golden child syndrome. I swear my parents think he is a gift from God. They always have. Growing up, the double standard was so obvious it was actually laughable. For example, if Drew broke my mom's favorite vase-playing ball in the house, it was, "Accidents happen, sweetie." If I left a freaking water ring on the coffee table, I got a 3-hour lecture about respecting property and responsibility. I wish I was exaggerating. Drew dropped out of college twice, jumped between like 8 different jobs, got fired from most of them, started a bunch of businesses that were basically just him scamming people on Facebook. And through all of it, my parents were like, "Drew is just finding his path. He's so entrepreneurial. He's got such big dreams." Meanwhile, I'm over here with my steady job, paying rent, helping around the house, and it's like I'm invisible most days. So, about a month ago, Drew called my parents crying that he and his wife were between homes. That's code for, we're broke and got nowhere to go. So, he shows up at the door with his wife Amy, their 2 kids, Zoe 7 and Tyler 4, and this yappy little Pomeranian puppy they named Zeus. Turns out his latest business venture, some crypto nonsense because of course it was, crashed and burned, and they got evicted from their apartment. My parents didn't even hesitate. "Of course, you can stay here. Stay as long as you need. No discussion with me, no asking if I was cool with it, just welcome the circus right in." The house went from reasonably quiet to total chaos overnight. The kids are running around screaming from 6 in the morning to 9 at night. That demon dog pisses on everything, my shoes, my backpack, even my bed once. And nobody trains it or disciplines it because he's just a puppy. My workspace? Gone. I work from home 3 days a week and had a decent setup in the spare room. Now it's filled with all their crap that didn't fit in the guest room. So I'm crammed in my bedroom, trying to code while the kids are pounding on my door every 5 minutes, asking if they can use my computer to play Roblox. The bathroom is always occupied. The kitchen is a disaster zone 24/7. The living room is covered in toys and dog hair, and my stuff keeps mysteriously breaking or disappearing. When I bring it up, it's always, "The kids are just playing," or "Accidents happen." The weirdest part? Drew has become super weird and protective whenever I talk to Amy. Like yesterday, I literally just asked if she was done with the toaster, and Drew came charging in from the other room like, "My wife's got it handled, bro." What the heck? As if I'm hitting on her by asking about kitchen appliances. Get over yourself, dude. And through all this, guess who's still paying $450 in rent? This guy. And guess how much Drew and his family are contributing? If you guess 0, congrats, you win nothing because it's obvious. I kept my mouth shut at first. They have kids, they're going through a rough time, blah blah blah. My mom always says, we have to stand by each other when we're in need, so I tried to be cool about it. But it gets better. Last week, my mom cornered me in my room with that look she gets when she's about to ask for something but act like it's no big deal. "Jake, honey," she starts, doing that thing where she fidgets with her wedding ring, with Drew and his family staying with us. Our expenses have really gone up. Groceries, utilities, everything. I already knew where this was going, but let her finish. We were thinking maybe you could contribute a bit more to help out, just until Drew gets back on his feet. I straight up asked, "You want me to pay more rent when Drew and his entire family are living here for free?" She got this weird, pinched look on her face. "It's not free, Jake. They're family, and family helps family." There it is again, the magical phrase that only seems to apply to me. "So, how much more are we talking?" I asked. "Just another $300 a month should cover it. $750 a month to live in my childhood bedroom, in a house overrun with screaming kids and a dog that pisses everywhere, where I have 0 privacy and my stuff keeps getting broken." I told her I'd think about it just to get her off my back, but inside, I was seething. That night at dinner, my dad backed her up with comments about everyone doing their part in tough times, while Drew sat there shoveling food in his face, occasionally saying stuff like, "Thanks for understanding, bro." Then, the cherry on top. On Sunday, Mom casually mentions that Drew and Amy are going out Friday night for a date night, and I'll be watching the kids. Not asked, told. "I have plans," I said, even though I didn't. "What plans?" Mom demanded. like I needed her permission to have a social life. Just plans.
Drew jumped in. Come on, man, we haven't had a night out in forever. The kids love their Uncle Jake. Everyone stared at me expectantly until I caved.
Fine, whatever. Friday night rolls around, and instead of playing the new game I'd been waiting to try, I'm chasing 2 hyper kids and a demon dog around the house. Drew and Amy said they'd be home by 10. They rolled in at midnight, both clearly buzzed, not even apologizing for being late. Oh, and while I was distracted by the kids, Zeus left a steaming surprise in my room. I stepped right in it when I went to bed. Perfect end to a perfect night. At this point, I'm starting to feel like I'm going insane. Am I crazy for thinking this whole situation is completely messed up? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is whether I'm in the wrong here. Should I suck it up and pay more to keep the peace, or am I right to feel like this is completely unfair? I've always been the type of person who avoids conflict, but this situation is pushing me to my limit. I'm tired of being the one who always has to compromise while Drew gets a free pass. If anyone's been in a similar situation, I'd love to hear how you handled it. So, after that whole babysitting fiasco, I was still on the fence about what to do. Like, yeah, the situation was complete garbage, but moving out seemed like such a huge step. Apartments around here are stupidly expensive, and I've been trying to save up for my gaming studio dream. Plus, moving out felt like I was somehow letting my parents win. I don't know if that makes sense, but it felt like I was admitting defeat or something. But then, a bunch of stuff happened that pushed me over the edge. The morning after I babysat, I woke up to find Amy going through my desk drawers, not even subtly, just straight up digging through my stuff. I was so shocked, I just stood there for a second before asking, "What are you doing?" She jumped like I'd caught her stealing, which, technically, I had. "Oh, I was just looking for some tape. The kids want to make a craft. There's tape in the kitchen drawer, where it's been for like 20 years. Well, I couldn't find it there," she said, all defensive. Before I could say anything else, Drew appeared in my doorway, like he has some kind of radar for when someone might call out his wife's nonsense. "Everything cool in here?" He had this weird, aggressive tone, like I was threatening her or something. "Your wife is going through my stuff," I said. Drew's face got all hard. "She said she was looking for tape, man. Don't make it a federal case. It's my personal space, Drew. Would you like it if I started going through your things?" "That's different," he said, putting his arm around Amy protectively. "We're guests here. Exactly, you're guests in the house I pay to live in." Drew laughed. "Always about money with you, isn't it? Some of us have real problems, dude." I almost lost it right there. I have a policy against punching people who are dumber than me, but Drew was seriously testing it. I just turned around and walked out before I said something that would make family dinners even more awkward. Later that night, I was heading to the kitchen for a snack when I overheard Drew talking to my parents. They didn't see me in the hallway, so I stopped to listen. "Yeah, I know eavesdropping isn't cool, but whatever. Jake has always been so self-centered," Drew was saying. "Would it kill him to step up and help out the family for once? Self-centered? Me? I'm the one who's been paying rent for 7 years while this mooch has never contributed a dollar." I was about to storm in and say exactly that, but then my mom chimed in. "I know, honey, he just doesn't understand what it's like for you with the kids and everything, but he agreed to pay the extra rent, so that will help." "Wait, what?" "I never agreed to that. I said I'd think about it. He's got all that money saved up," Drew continued, always talking about his stupid video game company. "Meanwhile, we can barely afford clothes for the kids. Maybe if you hadn't blown all your money on crypto, dumbass." And honestly, Drew lowered his voice, he makes Amy uncomfortable, always hanging around when she's in the kitchen or living room. She doesn't like being alone with him. I nearly choked. Me, making her uncomfortable? She's the one going through my stuff, and I actively avoid them as much as humanly possible. I went back to my room without getting food. My appetite was gone. I lay in bed, fuming for hours, replaying everything in my head. The next morning at breakfast, my mom casually mentioned that since I'd agreed to the new rent amount, she'd be expecting the first payment on Friday. I opened my mouth to argue that I never agreed to anything, but my dad jumped in with, "We really appreciate you helping out, son. Family first, right?" They were tag-teaming me, and I knew from experience there was no winning this argument, so I just nodded and focused on my cereal. Then my mom dropped another bomb. "Oh, and Drew and Amy need someone to watch the kids this weekend. They've got a wedding to go to." "The whole weekend?" I asked. "Just Saturday afternoon through Sunday evening," she said, like that was no big deal. "I can't," I said. "I've got work stuff to finish." "You can do your computer stuff anytime," my mom said dismissively. "The wedding is only on this specific date." "Yeah, bro," Drew added. "Don't be so selfish. It's not like you have actual plans." How the heck would he know what plans I have? And more importantly, why is their social life my responsibility? "Actually, I do have plans," I lied. "I promised to help my buddy Chris move." Can't you reschedule? My mom pressed. No, he's already got the truck rented. The look my mom gave me could have melted steel. Drew just shook his head, like I disappointed him personally. Amy muttered something that sounded like typical under her breath. The weekend babysitting thing was bad enough, but what really pushed me over the edge happened a few days later. I came home from work to find Zeus had chewed through my expensive gaming headset, completely destroyed it. Those things cost $200. When I confronted Drew about it, he just shrugged. It's just a headset, man. He's a puppy, what do you expect? I expect you to keep your dog under control and replace things he destroys, I said. We don't have money for fancy headsets, Drew said. If it matters that much to you, buy another one, or better yet, grow up and stop playing video games all day, says the 28-year-old who lost all his money on a crypto scam. But the final straw? I overheard Drew and my mom talking about my savings account. They were actually discussing how I should pitch in some of my savings to help the family through this rough patch. That was it, the absolute limit. They were plotting to guilt me into handing over my savings. Money I've been putting aside for years, working overtime, skipping vacations, living frugally, so Drew could continue his consequence-free lifestyle. I went back to my room, opened my laptop, and started looking at apartment listings. I'm absolutely done. I didn't know how I was going to afford it or where I'd go. But one thing was crystal clear. I couldn't stay in that house another month. Not with these people who saw me as nothing but an ATM with legs. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, my mind racing like crazy. Should I confront them, try one more time to reason with them, cave, and pay the extra money to keep the peace? Every option seemed like a losing one. Around 3 a.m, I texted my buddy Chris. Yeah, the one I made up as an excuse earlier. We used to be tight in high school but kind of drifted apart after graduation. We still grab beers occasionally, but that's about it. Hey man, weird question. You know anyone looking for a roommate? Got to get out of my parents' place ASAP, wasn't expecting a reply till morning, but dude texted right back. Dude, this is crazy timing. My roommate just told me he's moving in with his girlfriend next month. You serious? Dead serious. Parents' house has turned into a nightmare. Let's talk tomorrow. Might be perfect timing. I finally fell asleep after that, feeling like maybe the universe was throwing me a bone for once. Met up with Chris the next day after work. His apartment isn't anything fancy, basic 2-bedroom in a decent part of town about 20 minutes from my job, but it was clean, quiet, and most importantly, free of my family. Chris said his roommate was leaving in 3 weeks, and if I wanted in, rent would be $575 plus utilities, split 50-50. More than I was paying at home before the increase, but less than the $750 my parents wanted now, and without the constant nonsense. I didn't even hesitate, told him I'd take it. We did a quick handshake deal and agreed to sort out the details over the weekend. Now I had 3 weeks to figure out how to move out without causing World War III at home. I knew if I told my parents I was leaving, they'd pull out every manipulation tactic in the book. Guilt, anger, fake concern, the works. Plus, they'd probably try to squeeze as much money out of me as possible before I left. So I decided to go stealth mode. Operation GTFO was officially a go. First step was tying up loose ends. I called my bank, changed all my passwords and security questions, and removed any paper statements coming to the house. If they were actually considering taking my savings, I wasn't taking any chances. Next was the physical escape plan. I couldn't just pack everything up without them noticing, so I had to be smart about it. I started with the stuff no one would miss. Books from my bookshelf, winter clothes from the back of my closet, extra computer equipment. Each day, I'd take a small load out to my car before work, then drop it off at Chris's place during lunch or after work. His roommate was cool with me storing boxes in the living room until he moved out. Thank God for decent humans, right? The hardest part was keeping a straight face around my family, acting normal when all I wanted to do was tell them exactly what I thought about their nonsense. Drew was still being his usual entitled self, stomping around the house like he owned it, letting his kids and that demon dog destroy everything. Speaking of the dog, Zeus nearly blew my cover. He kept following me around, barking whenever I moved stuff from my room. I started carrying dog treats in my pocket to shut him up. Felt like I was in a heist movie or something. One close call happened when Zoe, Drew's 7-year-old, saw me loading a box into my car. "What's in the box, Uncle Jake?" she asked, popping up behind me like some horror movie kid. I nearly had a heart attack. "Just some old stuff I'm donating," I lied. "Can I see? It's boring grown-up stuff. Just old papers and books. Can I help carry things?" "Not today, kiddo. I've got to get to work." She looked disappointed, but thankfully ran off to play. Kids that age have the attention span of goldfish sometimes, which worked in my favor. Meanwhile, my parents were still on my case about the extra rent. Mom kept casually mentioning bills and expenses whenever I was around. Dad started giving me the silent treatment when I didn't immediately hand over the extra $300. The absolute best, though, was Drew. This idiot had the nerve to lecture me about financial responsibility one night. "You know, Jake," he said, sprawled on the couch while I tried to watch TV, "when you have a family of your own someday, you'll understand that sometimes you have to make sacrifices." The irony was mind-blowing. "Fascinating insight from a guy who's living rent-free in his parents' house at 28, I replied. "That's a low blow, man. I'm going through a tough time. The crypto market is a scam and you fell for it twice." He got all huffy and left the room. Small victories. Then came another fun family meeting. Mom called everyone to the living room one evening. Me, Dad, Drew, and Amy. The kids were already in bed, thankfully. "We need to discuss the sleeping arrangements," Mom announced. "With the kids getting bigger, they need more space." I immediately got a bad feeling. "We're thinking they should have their own room," she continued. "Since you're working so much anyway, we thought you wouldn't mind if the kids used your room. You could take the den downstairs." The den is basically a converted basement storage room with no windows and a futon that's older than I am. Plus, it's right next to the laundry room, so you hear the washing machine at all hours. "Absolutely not," I said before I could stop myself. Everyone looked shocked, like they couldn't believe I'd refuse such a reasonable request to give up my bedroom for the freeloaders. "It would just be temporary," Mom said, "until Drew and Amy get back on their feet." "Which will be when exactly?" I asked. "They've been here a month with zero progress toward moving out." "I'm applying for jobs," Drew protested. "Are you? Because all I see is you playing Xbox and complaining about how hard your life is." "Boys, stop it," Mom interjected. "Jake, it would really help the family if—" "No," I cut her off. "I pay rent for my room. I'm not moving to the basement so Drew's kids can have my space. That's final." The room went silent. Dad looked uncomfortable. Mom looked like she was about to cry, her go-to manipulation tactic, and Drew just glared at me like I'd kicked his dog. Amy finally broke the silence. "Well, I think it's incredibly selfish. Those poor children, crammed into one tiny room, while you have all that space to yourself." I almost laughed. "You know what's selfish, Amy? Moving your entire family into someone else's house and then acting entitled to even more space." She gasped like I'd slapped her. Drew stood up, getting in my face. "Don't talk to my wife like that." "Or what?" I shot back, standing up too. I'm a good 3 inches taller than Drew and hit the gym regularly, unlike him. He backed down pretty quick. "This is exactly why the kids don't like being around you," he muttered, retreating to Amy's side. That was news to me, considering the kids wouldn't leave me alone most days. I looked around at all their angry, disappointed faces and realized something important. These people weren't going to change. They would keep taking and taking until there was nothing left of me. "I'm going to bed," I announced, "and just to be crystal clear, I'm not moving to the basement. I'm not giving up my room, and this discussion is over." As I walked out, I heard Amy whisper to Drew, "See, I told you he's always been the problem." That night, I finalized my plans. I texted Chris, asking if I could move in early, sleeping on his couch until his roommate left. He agreed. Operation GTFO was entering its final phase. No more Mr. Nice Guy. It was time to put myself first for once. So, now, everything is set. I've signed the lease, packed my stuff, and I'm just waiting for Chris to tell me when I can come. I know this is going to cause a lot of drama, but honestly, I don't care anymore. I need to do what's best for me, and staying in that house isn't it. I'm ready to start fresh in a place where I can actually focus on my goals without all the chaos and stress holding me back. Wish me luck, guys. After that blowout about the bedroom situation, things at home got real tense. My parents were giving me the silent treatment, which was actually kind of peaceful, to be honest. Drew was stomping around like a toddler who got his toys taken away, and Amy kept making these passive-aggressive comments whenever I was in earshot. "Some people just don't understand what it means to be a family," she'd say to no one in particular while I was grabbing coffee in the morning. I just ignored it all and focused on finalizing my escape. Chris texted, saying I could move in that weekend. His roommate was cool with me using the living room to sleep until he officially moved out in a couple of weeks. Said the guy felt bad for me after Chris told him about my situation. Strangers showing more empathy than my own family. Pretty sad when you think about it. Friday night, I made sure to act normal at dinner, even offered to do the dishes afterward, which surprised everyone. My mom looked at me suspiciously, like she was trying to figure out what my angle was, but I just smiled and said I was in a good mood because of a work thing. They bought it. After everyone went to bed, I packed up the last of my essential stuff. Laptop, remaining clothes, toiletries, chargers, all that important stuff you need for daily life. I'd already moved most of my other stuff bit by bit over the past couple of weeks. Set my alarm for 5 in the morning, figured that would give me plenty of time to load up my car and bounce before anyone woke up. Drew and his family never get up before 9 on weekends, and my parents are usually up around 7:30. Of course, Zeus, the demon dog, almost ruined everything. My alarm went off, I quietly got up and started carrying bags to my car, and that little fur missile started going ballistic, barking and jumping around like I was an intruder. I panicked for a second, thinking he'd wake everyone up. Tossed him one of the treats I'd been using to bribe him. Yes, I came prepared, even for this, but he just ate it and kept barking, little bastard. Finally had to pick him up and lock him in the bathroom with another treat. Felt bad for whoever would find him there later, but desperate times and all that. Loaded everything into my car in record time. My hands were shaking the whole time, partly from the early morning cold, partly from the adrenaline rush of finally escaping. I stood in my bedroom one last time, looking around at the empty shelves and bare walls. It was weird. I'd lived in that room most of my life, had some good memories there before everything went to heck. For a split second, I felt this pang of doubt. Was I making a mistake? Would I regret leaving like this? Then I heard Zeus start barking again from the bathroom and Drew yell, "Someone shut that dog up!" from his room. Nope, no regrets. I'd thought about leaving a note, but what was there to say that hadn't already been said? So I just grabbed my keys, took one last look around and walked out. Driving away from my parents' house as the sun was just coming up felt surreal, like I was in some coming-of-age movie or something. I half expected dramatic music to start playing. Instead, I just cranked up some Metallica and hit the gas. Made it to Chris's place around 6 in the morning. He was still asleep, obviously, so I sat in my car for a bit, scrolling through my phone. I'd turned it to silent mode, figuring it wouldn't be long before my family realized I was gone and the texts and calls started flooding in. Chris finally woke up around 7:30 and helped me bring my stuff in. His place isn't anything special. Basic apartment with a small kitchen, decent-sized living room, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, but it was quiet. No screaming kids, no barking dog, just blessed, beautiful silence. "Make yourself at home," Chris said, gesturing to the couch. "Jim's room will be empty in a couple of weeks." I crashed on the couch and slept for like 4 hours straight, best sleep I'd had in months, even on a lumpy couch. When I woke up and checked my phone, it was exactly what I expected. 8 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 2 from Drew, surprising he even bothered, and about 1 million texts. "Mom, Jake, where are you? Mom, are you okay? Call me right now. Mom, why is your room empty? Mom, I can't believe you would do this to us. Dad, son, your mother is very upset. Call home. Come home so we can talk about this. Drew, wow, real mature, bro. Just bail on everyone. Hope you're happy with yourself." The Guilt Trip Express was right on schedule. I turned my phone off and helped Chris set up his new gaming system. Figured I'd deal with the family drama later. Around 6 in the evening, I finally turned my phone back on and called my mom. Figured I owed her at least that much, even if she had been unfair to me. She answered on the first ring. "Jake, where are you?" "I moved out," I said, keeping my voice level. "I'm staying with a friend." "You moved out? Without telling anyone? How could you do this to us?" I had to hold the phone away from my ear, she was screaming so loud. "I tried talking to you guys multiple times about how unfair the situation was. You didn't listen. So you just leave? No note, no warning? Do you have any idea how worried we've been? Your father and I have been calling hospitals." The guilt trip was in full effect, right on cue. "Mom, I'm an adult. I don't need permission to move out, and I'm fine, obviously. This is about the rent increase, isn't it? Or the bedroom? We could have worked something out if you just talked to us instead of running away like a child." I almost laughed. "I did talk to you multiple times. You ignored everything I said and kept pushing for more. More money, more space, more sacrifices, all while Drew contributed nothing. Your brother has children, Jake. He's going through a difficult time. And I'm sorry about that, but it's not my responsibility to support his family. I've been paying rent for 7 years while he's never paid a dime. It's not fair, and you know it. Life isn't fair," she shot back. "Family helps family." "Exactly, but it has to go both ways, Mom. I can't be the only one giving while everyone else takes." She started crying then, which almost broke my resolve. My mom crying has always been my kryptonite, but I held firm. I told her I wasn't coming back, that I'd signed a lease with Chris and would grab my stuff next weekend. She hit me with the classic, "We're disappointed" line. I shot back that I was disappointed too, for them always putting Drew first. Then I hung up. It had to be said. Drew texted me later that night. "Thanks for bailing and leaving us to deal with Mom's breakdown. Real stand-up, bro, you are." I replied, "Thanks for moving your entire family in and expecting me to foot the bill. Real stand-up, bro, you are." Dad also doesn't stop trying to contact me, sending threats and guilt trips, saying he cannot afford the rent alone. Who said I signed up to be a second parent? Despite all the drama, I feel like I made the right decision. My new place is quiet, my roommate is cool, and I'm finally able to focus on my studies and work without constant distractions. It hasn't been easy cutting ties with my family, but I know it was necessary. I can't keep sacrificing my own happiness and future for people who don't appreciate me. So, yeah, that's where I'm at now. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time I feel hopeful. It's been a couple of weeks since I moved out of my parents' house, and honestly, life's been pretty good. Living with Chris has worked out better than I expected. We split everything, respect each other's space, and generally just get along without drama. After years of family chaos, it's been like a vacation for my mental health. My room is set up exactly how I want it. I can leave my laptop on my desk without worrying about sticky fingers destroying it. I can sleep in on weekends without being woken up by screaming kids or a barking dog. I can cook without someone criticizing my food choices or eating all my leftovers. The small things, you know. Work has been going great too. Without the constant stress at home, I've been more focused and productive. I've also been working on my game development stuff on the side. Nothing major yet, but it feels good to be pursuing my passion instead of just talking about it. As for my family, well, it's been complicated. 2 weeks after I moved out, I went back to get the rest of my stuff. It was awkward as heck. Mom looked like death warmed over, wearing the same robe I remember from when I was a kid. Dad was quiet, moving around the house like a ghost. The place had this heavy feeling, like all the energy had been sucked out of it. Chris came with me to keep things quick, but Mom tried to corner me in my old room anyway. "You could have talked to us," she kept saying, voice all shaky. "You didn't have to just leave." I kept it brief. "I did try to talk to you multiple times. You guys chose not to listen." She started crying, which made me feel like crap, despite everything. Dad just stood in the doorway, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Neither of them directly asked me to come back, but the question hung in the air. There was a bit of silence on their behalf. I thought I could finally breathe, but then Dad called one evening, sounding unusually humble. "Son, I know we've had our differences, but we need to talk man to man." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for coffee at a place near my work. Neutral territory, public setting, seemed safe enough. The minute he sat down, I knew it was a setup. He looked haggard. He went on about how Mom was beside herself and how the whole family was falling apart since I left. I almost felt bad until he dropped the real reason for the meeting. "Jake, we're in a spot financially. With you gone, we're short on the mortgage payment this month." I just stared at him. "So, you want me to keep paying rent for a place I don't live in anymore?" "Not rent," he said quickly, "just helping out family during a rough patch." Once Drew gets on his feet, I cut him off. "Dad, I moved out because you guys were taking advantage of me financially while letting Drew freeload, and now you're asking me to keep paying even though I don't live there?" "It's not about paying," he insisted. "It's about responsibility, family obligation." "What about Drew's obligations?" I asked. "Why isn't he stepping up?" Dad got defensive. "Drew has a family. He's going through a tough time." "He's been going through a tough time for years, Dad. I'm done subsidizing his lifestyle." That's when Dad dropped the bomb. "We need $800 this month, or we might lose the house." $800, more than I was paying when I lived there. I laughed in his face, which wasn't my proudest moment, but come on. "No, Dad, not happening. Drew needs to get a job. You and Mom need to stop enabling him." He left, looking defeated, and I felt a mixture of guilt and anger. Part of me worried they really were struggling, but another part knew this was just more manipulation. The next day, Drew finally broke his silence with a series of nasty, almost threatening texts. "Way to ditch the family when we need you most. You're dead to us. Mom's having anxiety attacks because of you. If she ends up in the hospital, that's on you. Dad's about to lose his job from all the stress. If that happens, don't be surprised when I show up to talk. My kids keep asking where Uncle Jake went. Hope you're proud of making them cry. Maybe I'll remind them exactly who to blame." I blocked his number then. Amy tried next. Her approach was more subtle. She sent this long message about how much the kids missed me, how Zoe cried herself to sleep asking for me, how they might have to move to a dangerous neighborhood if they got evicted, laying it on thick. "Maybe you could just help out temporarily," she suggested, "for the kids." I wasn't falling for it. I sent back, "Strange how no one cared about my financial well-being when I was being charged $450 in rent, while Drew lived free." "Sorry, but this isn't my problem anymore," she responded with a paragraph about how selfish I was being. I blocked her too. Every time I shut down their attempts, they try a different angle, like they couldn't leave me alone a few days later when my aunt, Mom's sister, called. I rarely talked to her, so I knew something was up. "Jake, what's this I hear about you refusing to help your parents with their mortgage? They might lose their home." Turns out, my parents had been telling the entire extended family that I'd abandoned them financially, and they were on the brink of homelessness because of me. They conveniently left out the part where they'd been charging me rent for years while Drew contributed nothing. But the final straw was when I found out through a mutual friend that my parents weren't even struggling financially. Turns out, Dad had gotten a bonus the month before I left, and the whole we might lose the house sob story was just nonsense to guilt me into handing over cash. That's when I went full no contact, blocked their numbers, emails, socials, everything. Even told my job not to put any calls through from them. 2 weeks of silence was bliss until the flying monkeys arrived. Family friends, distant relatives, even my mom's church buddies, all telling me to make peace. I ignored most but responded to my cousin Mark, who told me the whole story. He was surprisingly supportive. He also gave me the inside scoop. The house is a mess. Drew and Amy aren't paying a dime. And the cherry on top. My parents finally gave Drew an ultimatum. Get a job in 30 days or move out. The guy's panicking because his so-called crypto expertise isn't exactly hireable. Mark also dropped a bomb. Mom admitted they never needed my money for the mortgage. They were secretly helping Drew pay off gambling debts. Gambling, with 2 kids. Unbelievable. So yeah, I'm done. No contact with my parents, Drew or Amy. I still send birthday cards to the kids. They're innocent in all this, but otherwise that bridge is dust. And honestly, I've never been happier. I'm currently working on my game development. Even started dating someone from a programming meetup. If you're stuck in a similar mess, here's what I've learned. Cutting people off isn't just an option. It's survival, especially when it's family, because they know exactly how to mess with you. Boundaries don't work when people don't respect them. Sometimes, you need a whole darn wall.